Like my pinky toe after being dipped in honey, let's keep this short and sweet. There's maybe 2 or 3 viable road decks coming in Ascended Heroes when it launches on January 29th in Pokemon TCG Live. Now, by road, I mean a deck that wins 10 to 20% of the time. And if you hit the right matchups, your janky creation, or I guess my janky creation, can embarrass some of the top decks in format. We start with the trainer who pulls double duty as a gym leader and a member of the Elite Four. While this doesn't actually matter and it's your useless fun fact of the day, Larry switches from normal type Pokemon in the gym battle to flying types in the Elite Four. Except his 3 Pokemon in Ascended Heroes are all on his original team. And Larry's skill isn't actually a Larry's card because they introduced it last year, not knowing they'd revisit trainer cards in 2026. Anyway, if you started TCG Live today, you probably have issues no therapist could fix. Also, you could probably build a Larry's Dudunsparce EX deck. Just add a 4-3 Dudunsparce line, 3 or 4 Komala, 4 Ignition Energy, 45 other cards, and you're done. It's easy to make because Dudunsparce flips a coin for each energy attached to it, dealing 80 damage for each heads. Get head 3 times, that's 240 one-shotting Raging Bolt. Get 4, that's Dragapult territory. To help achieve this, Kamala Harris accelerates any energy from hand to your active Larry's Pokemon. Ignition Energy is any energy and it provides 3 colorless. Get 2 on a Dudunsparce with Komala, do a manual attachment, and you're flipping 7 coins. Like an indecisive person at a bowling alley, I couldn't really pick a lane, so I just decided to include Power Glass, Mela, Turbo Energize, and Superior Energy Retrieval to try and maximize the amount of energy on Dudunsparce each turn. What I'm worried about is bench space. In a perfect world, you have 4 Komala in play at a time, but then you have no room for Fezandipiti or Fan Rotom or really anybody else. Of course, you'll need a bit more help. I went with Fan Rotom, Ursaluna, and Moltres as the backup attackers, all of whom are decent options. Or if you want to focus more on special energy, Mega Lopunny with 4 Jet Energy is a decent choice. Since there's no real skill involved with the deck, you could start winning some games right away with the Dunsparce. And also losing some games right away because it's a coin flip deck. Still, it's semi-viable, and in this video, that's all that matters. As for Hop's Trevenant, the more I stared into its chest mouths, the more I liked it. While it sucks naked, if one of your Hop's Pokemon was just knocked out, it deals 130 damage for 1 energy. It's been nearly a year since Journey Together, so I'll forgive you for not remembering the goodies this archetype has access to. Snorlax boosts Hop's Pokemon's damage by 30, same with Postwick. So too does Hop's Choice Band, except that also reduces their attack cost by 1. Essentially, Trevenant can deal 220 damage for free fairly easily. You can't solely rely on it though, which is why Zacian EX is here to spread damage early. And also to get knocked out, thus activating Trevenant and Cramorant. This first list did a thing in Japan, though I made a couple of slight changes, adding 1 Hop's Bag and a copy of Mega Frostlass EX. Otherwise, it's basically just a souped up Frostlass Munkidori Badoo. Since your Hop's Pokemon can attack for free, that frees up your manual attachments for Munkidori. Zacian spreads cheeks, Trevenant makes them pay for taking a KO. I would recommend maybe adding a copy or 2 of Hop's Cramorant though, because that's kinda almost a better Trevenant. For other ideas on who to pair Trevenant with, think of those with a single energy attack cost. Mega Frostlass, Mega Lopunny, Cramorant, and Bloodmoon Ursaluna are great partners. Same with Lily's Clefairy EX, who allows Trevenant to one-shot Dragapult. Obviously, the power level of Hop's Trevenant isn't terribly high, and the deck is quite dependent on you getting all 3 assisting cards into play. But Hop has always been hanging around the cool kids at lunch laughing at their jokes even though he's a couple tables away. The one and only strategy with Azumarill EX is to get as much Psychic Energy in play as possible. That's it. If you're planning on doing anything else, you've already lost the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't really fit into a Gardevoir EX deck because Gardevoir doesn't need the help. It could pair with Mega Gardevoir at some point though. But for today, I'm going with good old Xatu, who only exists in Standard for 2 more months. However, there's a few problems with Azumarill EX. Firstly, it hasn't done anything in Japan, so every list is a Trust Your Pilot special. Secondly, there's so many freaking different ways to play this that, like Toes, finding the perfect one is impossible. If energy is the goal, along with Xatu, you can include Smoochum, who accelerates 2 for free, or Turbo Energize, who accelerates 2 for not free. Along with those cards, you can play Glass Trumpet, Experience Share, Spidops, and Wondrous Patch. Because Azumarill's ability takes the energy from anywhere on the field, it doesn't matter how it gets into play. And if you do use someone like Terapagos, that opens up the possibility of Baby Azumarill, who's honestly pretty great right now, dealing 230 damage for 1 energy if you have a Terra in play. This first list is all about Azumarill EX and Xatu. Smooch him once or twice early, set up Experience Share, and just try to accelerate 2 or 3 energy into play each turn. It'll be slow and make you wish Baby Azumarill was the focus, but it should work. Otherwise, go with Baby Azumarill as the focus plus a single copy of the EX. Glass trumpets your accelerator, while Experience Share continues to hopefully keep any lost energy in play. As a bonus, Mega Kangaskhan can attack here and deal up to 10,000 damage for 3 energy, making you question why I'm bothering to focus on Azumarill in the first place. Well, in my defense, it can deal 340 damage for 7 energy on itself, so it's not unplayable. I'd just rather do 230 for 1 energy on Baby Azumarill than 340 for 7 on the EX. At least Telepath energy in perfect order will help the deck out, so keep that in mind. As you know, I'm always Dooning, so I was fully prepared to build a deck featuring Obstagoon. But then I realized this stage 2 is actually worse than the basic Brute Bonnet. Yeah, the evil mushroom needs 3 energy instead of 2, but you're running Toxtricity anyway, so it doesn't really matter. While Obstagoon doing 70 times each damage counter on their active might seem better, Brute Bonnet is 50 plus 50. If you look at my expert mathematical comparison between the two, it's fairly even. So just watch my Brute Bonnet video from last year, copy that list, and pretend like you're Dooning. So instead, I'll devote this spot to Kingambit, someone I really want to make work. Borrowing ideas from Terra Charizard EX, Kingambit does 180 base damage plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent's taken. That's awesome, meaning it's able to deal 330 damage if they Peregrine took in 5 prizes. Or, provided the translation is correct, over 400 damage with Crisis Punch. Problem is, Kingambit attacks for 2 metal. It might not seem like much, especially when Reversal Energy exists, but trust me when I say it's a bigger obstacle than a Sleeping Snorlax. It means you have to play Metang, or Archaludon, or Turbo Energize, or Experience Share, or Energy Sticker, or an Awkward Christmas Monkey Dory, or something else. Since it kinda fits the theme of the deck though, I went with Archaludon. Evolve into it, accelerate 2 metal from the discard pile. Along with Genesect EX to find your evolutions, Relicanth plays a big part. If Archaludon isn't showing up for work or is simply a bad idea in the matchup, you use Relicanth to copy Pawniard or Bisharp's attacks. Pawniard has a corner attack, Bisharp draws 2 cards, and both get the damage boost if the translation's correct. The list is very much a work in progress, but I don't hate it. Archaludon can attack early or move energy around while you build up Kingambit in the background. Once they've taken a couple of prizes, Kingambit does more damage than Archaludon, so from that point you start attacking with Channing Tatum's favorite Pokemon. Now, you may have noticed something odd. I included both Vengeful Punch and the Strike Down Kingambit. This is what I'm excited to test because there's definitely something here. Strike Down Kingambit one-shots anything with 4 or more damage counters on it. Vengeful Punch puts 4 damage counters on someone. Bounce between the 2 Kingambit, either dealing damage with the new one or one-hit KOing with the old one. And if you go that route, I wouldn't blame you for switching to Metang. Trying to narrow down the various rogue options in Ascended Heroes was harder than George R.R. Martin writing those love scenes featuring a 13-year-old girl. Mismagius with Brute Bonnet and De-Evolution could be a thing, since damage counters aren't affected by Dragapult's stupid built-in bench barrier. But against anything running Monkey Dory, you're completely screwed. Elsewhere, this is the best Heliolisk card we've ever had. But you have to include 4 Canary, a buttload of Lightning Energy, and Reversal Energy. Iono's Kilowattrel also seems like a must to draw cards, yet you're doing all this for somebody who could end up dealing 0 damage. Stunfisk is a card I'm excited to try with Iron Hands and Mega Lopunny. Despite some initial confusion around its translation, it appears the defending Pokemon takes 100 extra damage from anybody, not just Stunfisk. Unfortunately, they can still switch or evolve or Penny or Turo, so you can't really build a deck around the pancake. It's more or less just a single copy and an Iron Hands or a Mega Lopunny deck. And someone like En's Vanillux could maybe be a thing with Uxie and Vengeful Punch, but you have to run Legacy Energy and Ignition Energy and probably Frostlass. Except in order for that particular strategy to work, you essentially have to double their damage counters 3 times in order to deal with those higher HP Megas in Stage 2s. Because it'll have to go from 60 to 120 to 240 to 280, which is way too much math for me. Finally, what about Beautifly and Dustox, or just Dustox on its own? I'm not sure attacking is the strategy, but Dustox with Handheld Fan can prevent them from having energy on their attackers. This all leads me to Erika's Pokemon, starting with Vileplume EX. There's nothing too special about the card. Sure, healing 30 damage from all of your Pokemon each turn is great, but only dealing 160 damage and relying on a coin flip for sleep is asking for trouble, just like when I walk into a women's only old folks home wearing short shorts. To build the list, you basically just take out Mega Venusaur from a Venusaur Meganium deck, add in Vileplume, and that's it. Tangle is the secret sauce, able to find an Erika's Pokemon every turn. Unfortunately, Vileplume has a 3 energy attack cost, so you have to run Tealmasked Ogerpon and Energy Switch, jamming up the crowded list even further. Looking at a perspective list for Erika's Vileplume, I've never appreciated Mega Venusaur more. 160 damage isn't knocking out any meaningful 2-prizers aside from Scrockabilly, and it's only because of weakness and the 10 damage from poison that you're able to one-shot Terra Charizard. Prizing's also a major issue. But if they flip tails on sleep a couple times and they don't have one-shot power on your Vileplume, you might classify this as a road deck. Otherwise, if you're like that creepy old man outside the Celadon gym in the original Pokemon games and not the Let's Go remakes where they turned him into a respectable creepy old man and you're obsessed with Erika, there's Victreebel. For a grass and a colorless, Victreebel does 40 damage times the number of Erika's Pokemon you have in play. So that's a damage cap of 240 or 270 with a Brave Bangle. Not bad, it's just held back by the attack cost. Neo Upper Energy guarantees an attack at some point and can be found with Cloris's Tenacity, which also grabs Forest of Vitality. Now, here's where things get weird. While I explain this, just remember that Tangela gets an Erika's Pokemon from deck every turn. So as long as you get one Tangela into play, the deck runs itself. Ready? Okay. I think you have to play Crispin with Fire Energy. I know, but it allows you to attack with Victreebel as reliably as possible. And you can even sneak in Moltres. I spent way too long building this list, and the more I look at it, the more I hate it. You need to be maximizing your damage each turn, so things like Psyduck and Shaman can't really exist. You also can't rely on Reversal and Neo Upper to carry you to victory, so you have to try something else. Just be glad I refrained from including Energy Sticker. Of course, Meganium is an option in this deck, except putting it into play reduces Victreebel's power, and you'd have to start playing Bug Catching Set or Pokepad to find the line. As for Ogerpon in Area 0, it's not really a fit. Not only does Area 0 usurp Forest of Vitality, but there's only 8 basic Erika's Pokemon that fit in this particular list. You know what, I'm going to stop talking about this now because there's no way it works. If you want to watch me suffer with Erika's Victreebel and Vileplume though, make sure you're following me on Twitch where I'm sure to have a complete mental breakdown. For the last true road deck in the video, we have something that I think fits the definition of the word like I fit toes in my mouth. Perfectly. For a single fighting, the new Medicham does 150 damage so long as you have exactly 7 cards in your hand. That might seem unwieldy until you remember that Lunatone, Solrock, and a Dunsparce exist. So it's a deck where everyone attacks for a single energy. While 150 might be a low number, Brave Bangle ups it to 180. Then Premium Power Pro can take you over 200. Admittedly, this gets better when Meowth EX arrives in March, offering up another Fighting Wheat 2-prizer alongside Fezandipiti. For now, you have this list that won a small tournament in Japan. Experience Share does a lot of heavy lifting, keeping energy in play after a Medicham's knocked out. That's important because you want to reuse Enriching Energy on a Dunsparce every turn, drawing 4 extra cards. But there's no Lunatone or Solrock. If you want to go that route, here's my version of Medicham. Legacy Energy tries to buy you an extra turn, while Solrock KOs weak basics or puts things in de-evolution range. Provided you get off to a good start, the deck should pretty much run itself. Dudunsparce and Lunatone draw you multiple cards every turn, while Medicham only requires 1 energy to do as much as 300 damage. You could always add things like Practice Studio for a 10 damage boost, the Dunsparce EX to punish EX heavy decks, or Bloodmoon Ursaluna as a closer you hope you never start. Because I know I'll get a bunch of comments if I don't include Mega Audino, here's Mega Audino. Now, let me be completely honest with you. I think it's weird they introduced a baby Pokemon all about kissing. Also, in my humble expert opinion, this thing is a 3-prize Turbo Energize that's more risk than it's worth. That being said, when Turbo Energize rotates on March 26th, all of a sudden it has some usefulness. For a single colorless energy, Kaleido Waltz flips 3 coins. For each heads, you search your deck for any 2 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon however you want. So half the time it's a 3-prize Turbo Energize or worse. The other half, it's the best energy accelerator in the game. There's been one winning list in Japan featuring Mega Audino, and it's almost exactly what you'd expect. You pair it with Mega Kangaskhan, giving you a way to power up your main attacker as well as Munkidori. Add Bouffalant to reduce the damage your basic colorless Pokemon take by 60, and odds are you're surviving a long time. Except the deck list still has Turbo Energize. And Crispin to go along with Airy and Penny, yet there's no Switch or Prime Catcher or Latios EX. My advice for Mega Audino is to simply wait 2 months, then go nuts. Once all the energy accelerators like Turbo Energized Gardevoir, Xatu, and Vileplume are gone, Audino gets good. It'll allow you to play Terapagos and Kangaskhan more efficiently as powering up Crown Opal becomes much easier. Or put it in a Mega Charizard deck or Crustal Ogerpon. Or you can do something in a Mega Gardevoir deck or even Wailord with Heavy Baton. And instead of relying on Flareon and Crispin and Noctowl, you can just Audino once and power up whichever evolutions you want. What I'm trying to say is Mega Audino is basically useless right now, which is why there's no really good list. But when rotation hits on March 26, you might be forced to use it. You know I had to include this here. The wackiest card we've had in a long time, Anthea and Concordia, gives you 3 extra prize cards when taking a knockout with an Ends Pokemon. You just, have to have 6 different Ends Pokemon in play, 2 of which are unplayable stage 2s. And Zoroark is your only real attacker because the knockout has to come by damage from an attack. As much as you want to live the dream and play this without Area 0, that's simply not in the cards. Again, you need 6 different Pokemon in play to make the 2 women who look like they've been roommates for 15 years work. This is close to how the deck needs to be built. A 4/4 Zoroark line keeps drawing cards while you hope to get set up. You'll want to focus on your evolutions first, then drop Area 0, Ogerpon, and your Zekrom and Reshiram. Because Anthea and Concordia as your supporter for turn, Prime Catcher and Counter Catcher are needed to gust up a target. Thanks to Darmanitan's 90/90 snipe attack though, you can potentially take 2 prizes early, then KO a single prizer for 4 later. Or if you're lucky, knocking out just a single Mega wins you the game. It'll definitely be a scramble among the PTCGL YouTubers to be the first to get an Anthea and Concordia video up, but the coolest, most handsome viewers will know that I was the first to bequeath upon you a list, albeit a terrible one. If you couldn't tell, this video broke my brain. Ascended Heroes has maybe 4 okay road options, so why did I have to keep going and build decks featuring Erika's Pokemon? While I contemplate my purpose in this world, leave a comment saying which bird Pokemon is your favorite.